YouTubers, this is Dyer. It's actually my debut, at least speaking in my videos. I've been putting up some videos for the last 10 years on my page and decided it was time to maybe do a guide for Wolcen Lords of Mayhem. So welcome, fellow lords. I'm going to be looking at the Wrath of Baäpheth Kratos build, I'm calling it. So first, I want to talk about a little bit of my motivations for this spec. Obviously, I'm a huge God of War fan, always have been. I'm a bit older of a gamer, so I played that when I was still an adult. The first time I played around, and ever since, whatever game I have played, I've always wanted to kind of duplicate the experience in a way. And this is really the first game that's ever had, at least that I know. If you guys have any suggestions, where you would have this kind of playstyle. They stole this right out of the game, and I'm all about that. I am also studying game design myself, and I have a bit of an appreciation for taking some things from other games that people enjoy onto other kinds of games. Into an RPG setting, ARPG setting. It's something I'm really happy they did. So let's go into things, I guess, line by line as to why this is probably something people want to try. Let's talk a bit about the controversy, that being bleeding edge. So I put up a few videos talking about, or at least showing, I wasn't really talking, showcasing a bit of the build and the kind of things you could do with it, and see if it was viable myself. Because I've been playing the beta and stuff, but once you get above level 20, things do really change. That makes the game, it's been dynamic for me, kind of going in and out of what I wanted to do, trying different skills, see how they can benefit this Wrath build. I'll just be calling it Wrath build, if I'm even saying that right. Baäpheth, anyway. The Wrath build. So, we'll look at my items first. Mainly things you're looking for here is material damage. We'll go into the passes in a second, but material damage is something, or even plus damage to some extent, is the things I was looking for on my gear. And then, of course, I have gotten some pretty good drops even in the last 24 hours or so. Seven Sisters pack, obviously, you'll see that Global Life Leech and Life Leech and Rage Generation are pretty much the keys to this build working out. You want to be able to spam things while still maintaining a high amount of rage for that extra boost from the passive, which again we'll go through in a second. Also, plus the rend damage, crit damage. Attack speed's not really that important in this build. I learned as I was going along. I tried to get a lot of attack speed, thinking I was just going to be spamming Wrath the whole time, but in fact you really can't do that, especially because just some the way things are kind of working with the skills. Some of them are, a bit overtuned. Some of them are a bit undertuned. One thing with Wrath right off the bat that I'll tell you, you will feel like sometimes you're swinging and actually don't hit anything. And it's not that they're dodging whatever. You actually notice even in a cleave moment, you'll hit like 5 guys and nothing will happen. So that's obviously a little bit of a bug, but it doesn't really happen that often that it makes it unplayable. Like you'll see, I kind of just mulch through shit. I think I'm on level 106 mobs, and I'm level 72, so I don't really have issues going through that. I don't really have issues with dying either, you'll find. Hopefully I don't die while I'm showing you that, because of the amount of leech I have. Really what Bleeding Edge does for me is acts as equally, of course, because the damage is good, but even, when they nerf it, they're not going to, even if they nerf it by 50%, which they're not going to do, it still benefits to the way my build works, because I usually have it on when I'm leaping into a group of guys. I stun all the guys with Wings of Ishmir, because I have an appropriate stun build, and using my shout and blood for blood, you're able to maintain a high enough of rage to keep it above the cap to do all the damage you need to with both Wrath and Bleeding Edge doing their thing and leeching a tremendous amount of health. And that's really what this build is about. And of course, I have Juggernaut to obviously deal with really nasty stuff, and I did get my 5th skill because I thought it was very important for me to have that to make this build work. My weapon. This is an interesting thing. So when I first got this weapon, this exact weapon, it dropped as 690 damage or something like that. I showed it in one of my other videos. But if you use a cool feature that they have here from this Thunder dude, and you go to the Dark Market, you can increase your item quality. Now what you do is you drop this in here. So if you get an item like in your 50s and then you're like, this is still really, really good, I want to use it, You pop it in here, pay what you need to, start the project, and when you complete it, it jumped up to 721. It actually changed no other stats except increasing my max damage, which was obviously really good.
No.
No, he tells me. All right. So, that's the gist of it. I have kind of shown my gear before, but here I'll kind of just go over it. You can do your pausing to check it out. One thing with these two items, the legs and the chest, they're really doing all the heavy lifting with regards to defenses, and that's because when we go to our passes, I do have Siegebreaker, and depending on the types of gear you're wearing, it can be a massive, massive boost if you plan it right. So in this case, my resistances are huge because I'm wearing a heavy chest, so that's what made it huge. So you'll see my resists here are quite good. They're decent. You know, roughly 50%, 52% all cross, right? So those defenses make things a lot easier. Here's my top damage right now, which is pretty good. I mean, when compared to other YouTubers, which are doing really well. I got 36k health. In terms of the skills, let's go through the skills real quick. So, Wings of Ishmir. Mainly use it to get in, get out, kind of engage, while immediately doing damage and leeching. The stun chance really helps with making sure you don't get, I mean, again, even if I got wailed on by everybody for a second or two, I'm not going down. The moment I hit anything with anything, my health just jumps. So, of course, you want to have it so you can use your stamina points. At this point, after practicing so much, I manage it, so I never really run into a situation where I don't have it if I need it. And, of course, Bleeding Edge, right now with all the things you need to spin around you, stuff like that. Again, if they nerf this thing by 50%, I wouldn't even care. It does more than its weight with regards to how it leeches, for me, at least for this build. Sovereign Shout, obviously for the big buffs. Duration, effectiveness, all the things it gives you. This is imperative. The life leech, of course. Once you put this thing on, I'm pretty much immortal. I haven't been one-shot. I do have a good amount of health. Obviously, I'm going to keep that up because I imagine things are going to start hitting hard, and chance of getting one-shot are going to rise. Okay. Then, got me my Juggernaut for my defense buff. It's the ultimate defense buff for me. Of course, I don't want to spend a lot of rage, so I took care of that. And then Blood for Blood, pretty much one of my favorite skills, outside of Wrath itself. This thing is just a massive killing buff and producing the ailment stacks that I need to do, increasing my weapon damage when they're in it. It's just awesome. You'll see how that works. And for the passives, you guys can look at this. I'll leave a link for it below. But what you can at least look at is this, Siegebreaker. I got the crit damage because I'm critting most of the time. So, critical hit chance and critical hit damage are important. Attack speed, not that much. I do have some things to help with my attack speed just because I wanted to get to a certain point where casting things wasn't clunky. But that I kind of figured that out. Of course, passively regenerate rage because you need that rage to be up high, specifically for this baby, which everybody knows, Frenzy Blows. Doing more damage when above 750. Literally double damage, 750 above 750 rage. So, God Amongst Men for the material damage. I'm all about material damage, which is the 3 types of damage you'll see under the chart there. I'm sure you know. And of course, making sure I gain rage once I'm getting beat on. And max health. This one keeps me alive too. If I do get bursted, it helps me kind of get out of a tough situation. That's basically the build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through and kind of show you what this is capable of. And obviously the best settings. I'm at 106. We'll just start like this. Yeah, this will go. So I put this on, put my buff, and I just go. You'll see even when I go up against big bad mama jumpers like this. You'll notice that, it's hard to notice it because it goes so fast, but my health drop, you hit me hard, you 70% of my health, and I didn't have to do anything because, damage was always coming out, so. It's more about the playstyle for me than the fact that this thing does a lot of damage, because my Wrath was too. Not as much, but again, that's the whole deal. I think that's what the overissue of Bleeding Edge is. It's silly not to take it at this point, just because it's, it does so much for you. But once they balance out other things, it'll get to where it needs to be. one way or the other. And I'm still going to use it regardless. I'll just have to make it work. May have to respec. May have to do a lot of other things to make it, viable high end. Because I still want to make sure I climb my ranks. You see my rage jumps up quite a bit here and there. Bleeding Edge really does punch above its weight. I'm sure everybody knows that about it. But I just kind of wanted to show. I'm not really even being that efficient here while I'm talking here doing this. And I'm not a professional, YouTuber and stuff, so talking and fighting is not that hard for me because I do have been playing this build since the beginning, since it started. So I'm pretty confident with how it works. This isn't really the way I play. I like to really spend my time getting everything and selling everything. It's kind of the way I do things. That's why I've been able to upgrade some stuff, like get my 5th skill. That takes a bit of investment time. So I'm always right in it. I see a lot of guys that do their debuffs, kind of hit from range or some stuff, throw some hammers. But I, like the mighty Ghost of Sparta, like to punch dudes straight in the fucking face. Now if I take a death, that's cool. In terms of the rotations, it's so smooth because, I'm pretty sure they're gonna fix some issues with global cooldown. From my opinion, Sovereign Shout and Blood for Blood shouldn't be on the global cooldown. That's just my opinion. And there should at least be a skill modifier to allow it, so Juggernaut doesn't do it either. That just makes sense. Or activates on its own. I have a lot of ideas, but that's just based on some of the studying I've been doing on how they build these things. What's really tremendous is Wolcen Studios, the way they just how they built this game in the time that they did with the budget I can imagine. I can kind of guess, and the team they have, they did a tremendous job. They have all the stuff with the issues with their launch and stuff, but guys, if you're not used to that by now, what are we doing here? We can complain about that all day long. It's not really worth the energy. If you're willing to be patient, if you've been supporting this game since the beginning, then these kinds of things should just kind of roll off your back, Okay, now I can go fight the boss. You'll see, even at 31 levels above. As long as I don't get... Imagine I got one shot right now. That'd be really embarrassing.
It's not possible.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes most of the time. The hardest one I ever have is that Inquisitor Knight guy, because he's got that weird. He's a bit buggy, all of a sudden all his orbs will appear around him and you're like, oh shit, where'd that come from? And that'll kill me. But then my Bleeding Edge, which of course this shouldn't happen, but Bleeding Edge stays on even when you die, so he ended up dying from my spinning blades just hitting him while I was still rezzing. But that is the build. Aside from all the weird buggy stuff and some of the over and under tuning, this is the way I like to do it. And I'm enjoying it. If anybody has questions or have any comments, definitely, if you guys have improvements for this build, I'd love to hear it. I'm looking to be top with this build, man, at least early on. Playing it before was cool, man. And that's just the way it goes. I'm Dire, signing out. Lords of Mayhem.